Syracuse police officers are being disciplined for not meeting the department's expectations for behavior and language during an arrest on the city's west side May 31st.
But the physical force used by the officers to get the driver out of the car, making some in the community most angry, has been deemed appropriate by the police chief.
And News Channel 9's Andrew Donovan was at police headquarters when city leaders announced the results of this review. So let's us review now, Andrew. How did the city come to this decision?
Well, Christy, the city used the initial video of the arrest recorded by the passenger of the SUV and seen thousands of times on social media. But the department also matched that with video from the cameras on the officers' uniforms to get a complete picture. For the first time, we're seeing things from the police perspective through body camera footage starting the moment Officer Christopher Buskey, along with Officer Len Brown, pulled over the white SUV. Driver Shaolin Moore is waiting with his license out the window as Officer Buskey explains why he was stopped.
You find your music? Yeah, you find your music. That's a local law.
I don't know if I would describe that as angry. I think that if we go on the 32 seconds or the 31 seconds that was originally released, it's very easy to come to that conclusion. But if you see the 20 seconds that preceded that, instructions, what, why, step out of the vehicle, I will think that there was more time given than what actually appeared in the first instance.
The department reviewed that first video too, taken by Moore's passenger. It shows when Officer Buskey makes the first physical contact with Moore and when the suspect reaches for his waistband.
If an individual is armed, more than likely it's going to be in that area. And while it was later proved that Mr. Moore was actually removing a phone from his lap, from the view of the officer, you can understand why we would view this as a threat.
Especially considering where the officers just came from, having just confiscated an illegal gun and drugs from nearby Skiddy Park in an unrelated police detail.
But to say that our officers don't have that in the back of their minds, that you just noticed several gang members in the area, common sense will tell you, of course that's on your mind when you're walking up to this vehicle.
Once officers had Moore out of the vehicle, pinned to the ground, his body language made it clear, the chief says, that he wasn't giving in. What should Shaolin Moore have done differently? What should the officers have done differently?
I think that it's clear that let's start with our officers. As far as doing differently with the force, I think that they did what they needed to do given the level of resistance that they had. I think the manner in which we spoke to Mr. Moore, we certainly have opportunity for improvement with that. We've recognized that and we've addressed it. The thing with Mr. Moore, he has a right to ask what's going on, why am I being stopped? He did some of that to some degree. But once the officers give you instruction, Mr. Moore needs to step out of the vehicle.
The chief there confident in his decision, being clear that use of force was appropriate, but that you heard from him some of the officers' behavior and language were not. Buskey and Brown were disciplined for violating the department's demeanor policy. The chief couldn't tell us what kind of discipline. I asked him about the options. Of course, most serious is termination, but the lower level end of discipline would be a conversation with a supervisor.